It's ITB back with another deep dive, and today we're going somewhere a lot of channels won't go: the intersection of dating, race, hierarchy, and power in America. When we talk about who we date and who we value, it's never just about preference. It's about history, identity, and a system that shapes how we see ourselves and each other. Recently, I read Social Dominance, an intergroup theory of social hierarchy and oppression by Jim Sedanius and Felicia Prado. And once you understand social dominance theory, once you understand group-based hierarchies, you start seeing the dating conversation in a completely different way. So have you seen black women disparaging black men, promoting non-black men, celebrating divesting, or using phrases like pasta and lobster, and you wondered why this is happening or what this trend really means? This video is for you. Because today we're going to break down social dominance theory and look at some very real stories of black women and girls whose lives reveal the cost of the hierarchy-based myths. But before we get into the cases, we need to understand the system behind them, because none of this is random and none of this is new. There's a framework that explains why certain dating narratives catch fire online, why hostility towards black men gets rewarded by algorithms, why divest culture feels empowering to some black women, and why predators can hide behind myths of white male innocence. That framework is called social dominance theory, SDT for short. And if you've never heard of it, don't worry, most people haven't, and that's a part of the problem. SDT explains how societies are built on group-based hierarchies, layers of power that determine who's trusted, who's feared, who's valued, and who is ignored. Not because of character, but because of position in hierarchy. In America, that hierarchy places white men at the top, black men at the bottom, and black women in a unique position where they're targeted by the system and also influenced by its myths. These myths are what Sedanius and Prado call legitimizing ideologies, or hierarchy-legitimizing myths. These beliefs are repeated so often in media, in schools, in dating conversations that they start to feel true. Black men don't protect black women. White men are safer partners. Black men are dusty. Dating white men is a level up. Black men are inherently dangerous. These aren't opinions. They're hierarchy scripts, narratives designed to maintain the existing power structure. And black women internalize these myths, not because they're weak, but because the system is pervasive and relentless. It doesn't just change who they date. It changes who they trust. It changes what danger looks like. And it changes who can get close enough to hurt them. This is where real-world consequences begin, because these myths don't just distort perception, they distort safety. And once you understand how these myths work, the tragedies we're about to discuss stop looking random, and you start seeing the programming, the kind that produces the same predictable outcomes again and again. Before we get into the first case, we need to talk about something that almost nobody wants to address directly: the ideology that shapes who some black women trust and who they distrust, and who they believe is safer or high value. You've seen the videos, the comments, the hashtags, black American women openly disparaging black men, calling them lazy, unreliable, dusty, aggressive, while promoting or celebrating dating men of other racial groups, especially white men. That pattern matters. Why? Because it reflects a belief system in which white men are seen as higher status, more desirable, more stable, and allegedly safer, while black men are framed as lower status, lower value, and inherently risky. That belief isn't a preference, it's a hierarchy-legitimizing myth, a story that upholds racial hierarchy. And these myths don't come from black culture, they come from white supremacy, and they benefit whiteness.
If I see a black man with a white woman, I'm like, that's that deep-ass self-hate, my nigga. You need to do something about that, right? Flip that same coin. I see my sister with a man, I'm going to say, girl, go where you loved. So I get that. And I can honestly say that's a bias I probably need to check. Do I plan on checking it today? Hell no.
You need to. That's
Do I plan on checking it in 10 years? Probably hell no. I don't give a damn.
What do you think about interrelationships?
It's okay for like a black girl to mess with a white guy, but not the same thing for a black guy to mess with a white girl.
Hey, how do you feel about interrelationships?
White women, if they date a black man, dead wrong. But if a black woman find her a rich white man, right on, sister. Black power.
Because people are definitely coming for me in the comments, but I stand by it. I love my interracial couples, but only when the girl is black. I didn't make the rules. Like, I just happen to be the one saying it, and it is what it is. And yeah, but yeah, you know what I mean? You know the vibes.
Yes, we do know the vibe.
Now I enter Thomas Jefferson's. The math problem he created, he basically predicted that through interbreeding, black person with a white person, if you did that after generations, you would be able to breed out blackness. Put another way, Thomas Jefferson created a math problem on how to breed out blackness.
Fascinating how 21st century discussions mirror the ethnological debates of the late 1800s. Evolutionary theorists like Lester Ward argued that blacks could achieve racial advancement through interracial union, specifically between white men and black women, but black men and white women would lead to devolution, right? Now we're going to get into the anthropological and the historical and the cultural element of this conversation. What is the roots of this mentality, right? Where does it find its roots? Because this is not something organic to black women. Black women did not come up with this mentality. This was given to them and reinforced to them by society, and now they're simply just regurgitating it now without the white supremacists having to actually put it in literature and force it and beat it into them. Now they just go around evangelizing the gospel of the white supremacists of the 19th century, right?
Social dominance theory predicts this exactly. When subordinate groups internalize dominant group myths, they make decisions that increase their vulnerability, and that's exactly what we see in modern dating rhetoric. When a black woman says, "I only date white guys," or "white men treat me better than black men," she's expressing an individual preference, yes, but she's also implicitly affirming. White mate equals elevated status, black mate equals lower status. That devalues black men as a group. It aligns with hierarchy-enhancing ideology, white at the top, black at the bottom. Because when the community echoes the same devaluation that the system already imposes on black men in the media, in the justice system, in hiring, in protection, it reinforces the very hierarchy that harms us all. And to be clear, this is not a condemnation of all interracial relationships. Plenty of them are healthy, equal, and loving. This is about the narrative, not the couple. It's about the message. When the message becomes white equals trophy, black equals problem, we have to ask, who's benefiting from this? Because it's not us. And that brings me to something that I need to address head on. Before you call this anti-black, hear me clearly. Whenever you talk about the harm caused by anti-black male rhetoric, some people try to flip that and say, you're being anti-black woman. Let's be very clear. Criticizing anti-black ideology is not anti-black. If you repeat stereotypes like black men are dusty, black men are violent, black men don't protect, you're repeating the same rhetoric that white supremacy has used for 400 years. Calling that out is not attacking black women. It's attacking anti-blackness, no matter who repeats it. Calling out these myths actually protects black women. When you promote the idea that white men are inherently safer, you lower the guard around the most institutionally protected men in society. That's not liberation, that's exposure. Predators use this myth as cover. This criticism is not about all black women. It's about a harmful ideology, not an entire population. We critique harmful ideas because we love our people, not because we hate them. Critiquing harmful behavior is not misogynoir. Protecting harmful behavior is. Misogynoir is the hatred of black women. What we're doing is something entirely different. Protecting black women from propaganda that leaves them unprotected. The goal is simple. Stop the myths that are getting black women hurt, exploited, and put to eternal nap. I'm not here to argue about preferences. I'm here because the evidence shows that anti-black male propaganda creates bad decision-making, false perceptions of safety, and lowered guard around predators, vulnerabilities in dating, and increased risk for black women and girls. If I didn't care, I would stay silent, but silence is how this cycle continues. Calling out intra-community anti-blackness is a part of healing. Communities don't get safer by ignoring dangerous narratives. They get safer by confronting them. And with that understanding, with the ideology on the table, now we can look at real-world consequences. Now let's put flesh on this theory. Real names, real lives, real outcomes. Disclaimer, I'm saying allegedly for all of these cases right now, even though many of these have been resolved with convictions. I just want to expedite things. So, allegedly, for everything I'm about to say about these cases. Case number 1, Stacey Charles, 23 years old, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Stacey was a young black woman in Baton Rouge. She was in a relationship with Stephen Heinrich, a 28-year-old white man with a long history of DV. She called the police on him. He was arrested, bonded out for just $2,500, and was released despite multiple out-of-state protective orders from other women. There were red flags all over his file. Days later, he rammed her car, pulled her out, and used a knife to delete her. He fled, crashed into another vehicle, and set himself on fire. Commentary from black social spaces point out that Stacey had posts online that were harsh towards black men and more positive towards white men.
Let me read some more. And boy, she went in on black men. Black men will stare you down in public when they're out with their ugly white girl. Relax, like I see her. It's bad. Here's another tweet she had. White people seem to never love me as much as I love them. These are this woman's tweets that's still up on her Twitter. What's this? Hold on. There's so many of them. Niggas be so dirty and burnt out and think a little clout makes them somebody. Boy, she had nothing but vitriol for black men. And white people were just angelic. She was like, this is another tweet from last year. I would love to live like a white person in New Orleans. They make the city look not so dirty. This woman just sat online. Here's another one. I'm getting niggas' least favorite hairstyle today. I guess she was going to get a hairstyle.
And made a statement, and she said this. I hate that this has become the discourse. This is not discourse. My sweet, kind, and friendly schoolmate got murdered by a mentally ill psychopath, and I hate that everyone is judging her over her preferences when she is so much more. She went on to say, liking white men does not mean that she was anti-black men. Now, that is true, but when you examine this lady in particular, her schoolmate, her friend, and you examine her mentality, you kind of get a mentality of the type of women that she had around her. And what I mean by propaganda, for example, when you go down her social media, she would say things like this. For example, take a look up on the screen. She said, well, damn, I know my ancestors are disappointed in me for liking the white man. She would say things like, if my friends do not throw the hottest whites my way when we go out next week, then they are not my friends. She would say things like, I just want to say I went to a bar with white boys looking like this for the sole purpose of hooking up with one, and I got no whites this night. Right. So she says she goes out to the bar for the sole purpose of looking for whites. Right. So this is the mentality of the girls that she had around her. And you wonder why she ended up with.
What does this show? The white men are safer myth does not align with reality. The justice system showed extraordinary leniency towards a white male offender, even with multiple DV red flags. Case number 2, Kennedy Smith, 21 years old, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Another young black woman, Kennedy Smith, was killed by her white boyfriend, Connor Reagan. Kennedy was found with 39 stab wounds. Reagan had already missed court-ordered DV intervention classes, but again, the system extended him leniency. He fled to Texas. He was eventually caught years later and accepted a 70-year plea deal. These cases are shockingly similar. Now pause. 2 black women, both in Baton Rouge, both young, in their early 20s, both with white boyfriends, both stabbed till deletion. Both men had documented warning signs before the deletion. Both got multiple chances from the system. At some point, we have to stop calling this a coincidence and start calling it a pattern. From a social dominance theory standpoint, this is what you expect when a dominant group is given the benefit of the doubt by institutions, while a subordinate group has less protection and less credibility. That's not coincidence. That's racial hierarchy reproducing itself through institutions, exactly as social dominance theory describes. Now add in a cultural myth floating around that says white men treat you better, white men are more stable, white men are safer. You've created the perfect ideological cover for some black women to lower their guard with exactly the men that the system already protects. Case number 3, Sade Robinson. 19 years old, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Sade Robinson was a beautiful 19-year-old college student who went on her first date with a 34-year-old white male named Maxwell Anderson. Within 24 hours, she went missing. Her dismembered remains were found in multiple locations. He was convicted of her deletion, mutilation, and arson. The details of this case after she went back to his place are truly gruesome, but by no means is this the only one. Case number 4, Cheryl Turner, 19 years old, Monroe, Louisiana. Cheryl was a 19-year-old from New Iberia in southern Louisiana. She traveled across the entire state to meet a white male that she met online from the bottom of Louisiana almost to the top. The man she met, Anthony Pierce Holland, engaged in adult acts, brutally deleted her, and dismembered her body. Police later found different parts of her remains in the Ouachita River. So here we have 2 black teenagers. Both were deleted by white males, both were dismembered, both were on first date. A different face, a different place, but very similar case. Case number 5, Russell Shavazz, 41 years old, Gwinnett County, Georgia, and a missing 14-year-old black girl. Now we move from adult relationships to predatory ones, which reveals another side of the same hierarchy. A 14-year-old black girl from Georgia went missing on the last day of school. She was found in the home of Russell Shavazz, a 41-year-old white male who groomed her online. This was an honor student who went missing and became a bedroom plaything. The same myths that paint white men as safer, classier, or more caring make young black girls vulnerable to predators who weaponize those narratives. Case number 6, Alexander Mithern, 28 years old, Tennessee to Louisiana. Yet another shocking case of a 14-year-old black girl. This girl was from Tennessee, and she met Alexander Mithern, a 28-year-old white male, through an online game. He drove across state lines to pick her up, had adult fun with her, and then abandoned her in the woods inside a tent so he could go celebrate Christmas with his family. He was charged with aggravated kidnapping, human trafficking, and carnal knowledge of a minor. When you look at these cases one by one, they feel tragic, painful, isolated, like a string of unrelated heartbreaks. But when you look at them together, when you place them on the timeline, when you line up the beliefs, the choices, the dynamics, and the warnings, a different picture starts to emerge. They don't look random anymore. They don't feel chaotic. They feel structured. Like something under the surface is guiding the outcome. Because in every story, every single one, we see the same pattern replaying itself. An inverted danger perception. The person they trusted was the one person who posed the greatest risk. The person they distrusted was the one person that could have warned them, helped them, or protected them. An overestimation of white male safety. Not because white men are inherently dangerous or safe, but because racial hierarchy has convinced some of us to associate whiteness with calmness, rationality, and stability. An underestimation of real-world risk. Red flags dismissed as misunderstandings. Controlling behavior minimized. Warnings ignored because the hierarchy script says he's not the one you have to watch out for. Internalized anti-black male narratives. Not always spoken out loud, but present in the belief that closeness to white maleness equals upward mobility and closeness to black maleness equals danger, instability, and struggle. A weakening of community safety networks, because when you're taught to distrust black men, you're also being taught to disregard people who might recognize dangers before you do. Isolation, a quiet creeping distance from the people who could have protected you emotionally or physically because the hierarchy told you that they didn't have value. Trust placed in structurally protected men, men who benefit from the presumption of innocence, the benefit of the doubt, the cloak of social credibility. And predators of any race know exactly how to hide behind credibility. Red flags minimized through hierarchy myths. This is the most chilling part, because once a myth gets into your belief system, it doesn't just change what you think, it changes what you see. It changes what feels dangerous. It changes what feels safe. And that's why these cases, these heartbreaks, these tragedies don't look like destiny, don't look like fate, they look like programming. A predictable outcome produced by social dominance order, operating through dating, through desire, through fear, through stereotypes, through media, and through silence. This isn't about blaming individuals. It's not about shaming who someone dated. It's not about attacking families or choices or relationships. It's about naming the system that shapes the outcomes. Because when you've been raised in a hierarchy that constantly whispers, trust the dominant group, be suspicious of your own, that belief becomes a script you didn't write but were expected to perform. And when enough people follow the same script, the ending becomes terrifyingly familiar. That's why social dominance theory matters. That's why we can't ignore the ideology. That's why these tragedies aren't just tragedies, they're warnings. Programming isn't destiny, but it's powerful. And the only way to break programming is to expose it. So let's zoom out, because these aren't just tragedies. They're outcomes produced by an environment, by narratives, by a hierarchy that shapes how people see themselves and each other. Social dominance theory tells us something uncomfortable but necessary. A racial hierarchy doesn't just push people down, it teaches them how to think. It teaches them who to fear, who to trust, and who they believe will give them status, safety, security, and stability. And when those lessons get internalized, especially inside a group as systematically targeted as Black Americans, the damage is predictable. When Black men are devalued, Black women lose a critical safety network. This is one of the hardest truths to say out loud. When a society spends centuries painting Black men as unreliable, violent, unproductive, or unworthy, the message doesn't just stay outside, it eventually seeps in. And once a woman starts believing Black men don't protect, Black men aren't providers, Black men are dangerous, she disconnects from the very group of men that have the strongest collective incentive to protect her, the strongest cultural bond with her, and the clearest understanding of the dangers she faces. Black men aren't failing to protect Black women. Anti-Black ideology is pushing Black men out of position. You cannot protect someone who's been conditioned to see you as a threat. Hierarchy doesn't just create distance, it creates misalignment. Idolizing whiteness creates a fatal blind spot. Let's be honest, when some Black women say things like, white men treat me better, white men are safer, I'm leveling up by dating a white guy, those ideas didn't come from personal experience alone. They came from the hierarchy, from the media narratives that portray white males as the universal romantic prize, the pinnacle of stability, the safest possible choice. But here's the danger. White males aren't inherently violent or harmless, but they are the most institutionally protected group in America, which means their crimes are minimized, the victims are doubted, and they often benefit from the "he would never do that" energy. So when a Black woman lowers her guard because the hierarchy told her that she's finally upgrading, she becomes vulnerable to exactly the kind of man who knows that his actions will be excused, softened, or believed to be out of character. Predators exploit belief systems, and the belief that white males are categorically safer is one of the most exploitable myths ever created. Internalized hierarchy distorts danger signals. This is where SDT hits the hardest. If you've been taught men of my group equals threat, men outside my group equals safe, then your entire perception of danger gets flipped upside down. Aggression from a Black male becomes proof of the stereotype. Aggression from a white male becomes a misunderstanding. Control from a Black male feels dangerous. Control from a white male feels romantic or protective. A red flag in a Black man becomes a permanent disqualifier. A red flag in a white male becomes a temporary flaw. This isn't stupidity. This isn't weakness. This is programming, cultural conditioning, inverted vigilance, and it's exactly what predators rely on. Internalized anti-Blackness fractures the community, and fractured communities are easy to prey on. When Black women push away from Black men through hierarchy myths, and Black men are pushed into defensiveness, resentment, or emotional withdrawal, the community becomes vulnerable. Because now the protection network is broken, the trust is fractured, and the intimate bonds that normally alert us to danger are weakened. Divide a group, and you can prey on the pieces.
Double and triple down on what I said. But I'm also here to say that I am not fully pro-Black. I am pro-Black woman. There is a big difference, and
that's it. Nothing further. I'm not pro-Black. I'm pro-Black woman. That's it. Nothing further. Not pro-Black. I'm pro-Black woman. That's it.
This is not a gender issue. This is a hierarchy strategy. A divided Black community is an exploitable Black community. Anti-Black male narratives ultimately harm Black women the most. This is the part that people struggle with, but it's the truth. When you elevate whiteness as the golden standard for safety, and devalue blackness as inherently dangerous, you reshape your own danger radar, and predators can see that. Because a woman who thinks that she's safe as long as she's around men from outside of her community is easy to deceive. A woman who thinks all risk comes from black men is easy to mislead. A woman who believes that proximity to whiteness raises her value is easy to manipulate. And predators study belief systems. They exploit them, they weaponize them. Not all white males, not most, but the ones who do pick women who believe the myths the most strongly.
You guys are doing. So I'm gonna pull up a comment section right now on the screen where this white dude had posted himself, no text, no information, just himself. And when you go to the comment section, every icon is a black woman just being so thirsty for this white man. Like, I actually literally looked at every single icon. It was literally all black women. And what's even more embarrassing is I'm noticing this trend of white men not even paying you guys any attention back. They're literally paying you dust. You are in the comment section begging for their approval. Is that not a pick me? Begging for men's approval? Okay, you're in the comment section begging for their approval. And my friend even pointed out, because my friend sent me that. My friend was the one that was cringing over that. And my friend said, you know dang well he sees those black women in the comment section. He hasn't even acknowledged any of the comments. And you guys are bending it over backwards, ready to bust it open for a person just because they are white. Like, this doesn't make any sense. He's just white. So embarrassing the way black women treated me. Guys, I went on a date one time with like an Indian man or whatever. You had black women in front of my date screaming at me, yes, girl, swirl. I see you. Yes, date out. Yeah, on the street in front of my date. I was cringing so hard. So it's not just online. They're doing that in front of the man's face. I had black women shouting at him like he was a celebrity just over him not being black. It's truly disgusting. And I'm going to call it out. So it's interesting because I'm calling it out. I'm a pick-me. No, you guys are the pick-me's. Pretty soon what's going to happen is we are going to create a bad stereotype for ourselves. This is why I'm speaking up on it, because I feel like my image as a black woman is attached to this when you guys act this way. Pretty soon, black women are going to have a stereotype that they are desperate for white men. They are pick-me's for white men. And then white men will then take advantage of your desperation.
Rejecting hierarchy myths isn't about loyalty, it's about survival. This isn't about policing who black women date, demanding race loyalty, or blaming victims. This is about rejecting false frameworks that distort judgment and increase risk. Black women deserve safety, black men deserve dignity, the community deserves integrity. And none of those things can exist when we allow 400-year-old hierarchy to dictate who is safe, who is vulnerable, who is trustworthy, and who deserves proximity. Rejecting those myths doesn't harm the community, it protects it. It brings the danger radar back into alignment. It restores the protective network. It reclaims our right to see clearly without hierarchy-blurred vision. So when we look at these cases, these patterns, these losses, they stop looking random. They stop looking isolated. They start looking like the logical outcome of a system that teaches black women to distrust the men who share their struggle and to trust the men that the system protects the most. And once you see that, you can't unsee that, because the truth is simple. Anti-black narratives don't just harm black men, they put black women in danger too. And until we can confront the ideology, the programming, the myths, the cycle continues. Let me leave you with this. None of this was about shaming preference. None of this was about blaming black women. And it definitely wasn't about protecting the ego of black men. This was about naming the pattern that keeps showing up because nobody else wants to talk about it. Social dominance theory tells us that hierarchies don't just live in our institutions. They live in our assumptions, our desires, our fears, our dating choices, our sense of safety, and even who we believe is dangerous or safe. And when you lay these stories side by side, Stacey Charles, Kennedy Smith, Cheryl Turner, Sade Robinson, and the 14-year-old girls who went missing, you start to realize these weren't just personal tragedies, they were structural outcomes, born from a society that teaches black women to distrust the very man who shares her struggle, while placing blind faith in the men who sit atop the hierarchy. Not because these men are inherently evil, not because black women are naive, but because the hierarchy scripts the story long before the relationship even begins. It scripts who seems trustworthy, it scripts who seems safe, it scripts who gets the benefit of the doubt, and who gets treated like a walking threat. It scripts a world where black men are devalued as protectors, and black women are left believing they don't need protection until they do. It scripts a world where black women feel unprotected by black men, and black men feel unwanted by black women, and predators see an opportunity in this disconnect. This is not about interracial dating. This is not about a gender war. This is about the narratives that we inherited, the myths we didn't choose, and the dangers we fall into when we don't question the hierarchy shaping our perceptions. So when I talk about this, I'm not attacking anybody. I'm trying to protect everybody, because the truth is simple. Anti-black ideologies hurt black women, anti-black male narratives weaken the entire community, and internalized hierarchy creates vulnerabilities that predators exploit. And until we confront the lies, the myths, and the programming reshaping black relationships, we're gonna keep seeing stories like these, teenagers like these, lives cut short by narratives they never created. But here's the part that nobody notices. This system doesn't just endanger black women, it also creates a different set of dangers for black men. Dangers rooted in the same hierarchy, the same stereotypes, the same lack of protection. False accusations, proxy violence, setup culture, and blue leashing. The hierarchy hits us all in different ways, but for the same purpose. So if you found today's video eye-opening, if something clicked, if you felt the pattern becoming clearer, then you don't want to miss the next deep dive. Because the next time we're exploring the other side of the hierarchy, how the same system puts black men at risk in ways almost nobody's willing to unpack. And when you understand both sides, how black women are endangered by internalized myths and how black men are endangered by institutional bias, you start seeing the bigger picture. Black men and black women aren't each other's enemy. The hierarchy is. And once we see the system clearly, we can stop fighting each other and start fighting back. Please drop a like, check out my other videos, consider subscribing, and as always, follow the truth. I'll see you on the next deep dive.